All right, let's convene our third speaker in this session, Professor Enrique Blasco Garma, speaking on the process of wealth creation, a re-evaluation of Hayek's law, legislation, and liberty.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to address this Congress. I read this book several times, and every time I read it again, I learn more. So I find it a fantastic book, and a book that changed a lot of my pre-thinking. So I'm very grateful to it. It's a difficult book to read because it's very long. It's written in I would say, not friendly to the reader. It's not easy to read. But if you work through it, I think everybody can learn very much. And so I'm very enthusiastic about this book. It changed the way I thought about many things, and I want to share some of the issues with you. Hayek, if we compare Hayek with the neoclassical model I was trained in, Hayek deals with real flesh and blood persons, largely ignorant and interdependent. That is, ignorance is not knowing is very important. It's a very important part of the economic environment. Something that we just heard a little bit about the difficulties of gathering data. Knowledge is a social endeavor. It's not it's something that people can engage in alone, but it's a social endeavor. And we will see later on how this understand this a little bit better. Value is a product of diverse, knowledgeable, multi-individual interactions. Value is this is just a summary of some of the main features. Value is agreement-conflict ratio. That is, there is value when people agree on something. When there's a lot of conflict on some issue, there's little value. I understand that when you compare, for example, what happens in underdeveloped countries with developed countries, in developed countries you have much more agreement. The ratio of agreement to conflict, to unsolved conflict, is much higher. Agreement to conflict, unsolved conflict, is much higher in developed countries than in undeveloped. You see that in permanent conflicts of different species. We have civil wars and different type of wars and all type of conflicts. Efficiency is also a matter of agreement. It's not a technical magnitude. It's something that is reached through agreement. Rights are exchanged, not things. In economics, we change rights. We don't exchange things. When we say we change apples for oranges, we really are changing rights over some rights over an apple, and rights over an orange. Law and economics are two sides of the coin. You cannot study economics independently of the law. Are both two sides of the coin, of the same coin. This is here I put a statement that is impressed me very much. This is textual from Hayek book. Our whole conception of justice rests on the belief that different views about particulars are capable of being settled by the discovery of rules that, once stated, command general assent. If it were not for the fact that we often discover that we agree on general principles applicable, even though we at first disagree on the merits of the particular case, the very idea of justice will lose its meaning. And here you can put justice, you can put truth instead of justice, but you can put any science. Any science has the same way of working. You have to agree on general rules, and at the beginning you might disagree on many issues, but once you settle on general rules, you start agreeing, and you start developing different disciplines. You develop law, you develop any science, economics, physics, chemistry, etc. All are based on the same principles. General rules agreed, and of course tested and see whether they work or not. This statement suits any science. Legislation is a scientific endeavor. What is what I took from the book? What is Hayek's message to for example, Latin Americans or Latin Americans? Latin Americans are poor since infected by fallacious beliefs, distorted institutions, and social exchanges. We have a mistaken ideological software, let's say. We can have the best computer, but if you feed the computer with bad programs, you cannot be surprised that you get wrong results. So there is an ideological software, an ideological problem in not understanding how development or how wealth is built up. Confusing ideologies weigh down productive activities in all underdeveloped countries. Legislation made civilization and social advancement possible by freeing decisions. Hayek says again and again, it was not the Industrial Revolution that we owe our progress to. Legislation came before the Industrial Revolution. If you don't have rights, if you don't have property rights, you cannot have development of ideas, of investments, of different progress. So legislation came first. And of course, it's not something that is stated forever. Everything is evolving. And here we have some facts. 80% of humans live in countries producing 20% of the planet's GDP. That is, most of humanity don't know how collectively build up wealth. Also, everybody knows how to build a car. There is no secret on that, or build different material elements. Anyhow, people do not manage to have the same achievement in one type of society and in another type of society. So Latin Americans are not poor because they don't know how to build different things. They are poor because they don't know how to work together, how to work socially. This is an important message of the book. How you make a momentous dismissal of the neoclassical model. What is the main features of the neoclassical model? Agents share same information. This is the basic feature of the neoclassical model. and they have the representative agent. Everybody has the same information. Then you can have the representative agent. And this gives ground to what Ronald Coase called blackboard economics. That is, the professor teaches the lecturer. He has all the facts. He knows everything. And so it's very easy to know what's wrong or how can you improve a given situation. You have all the information. Agents' decisions are, on this basis, are automatically coordinated. Coordination is not an economic problem because you achieve it automatically. And neoclassical model deals with physical goods and the physical factors of production. The efficient allocation of resources is independent of the environment individual choices are exercised. And also, normally it's assumed a benevolent despot, that is, government behaves in a way that looks after the real interest of the agents, of the individuals. Now this is important. The efficient allocation of resources is independent of the environment individuals make decisions. Personal incomes are exactly equal to their contributions. There are no personal disputes, no divergences. So everybody is satisfied, you will always have an optimal situation. And this is the model that most people are training in most universities of the world. It's a very simple model to understand and you feel you have the tools to understand economics. But of course you cannot be surprised that with these tools you don't reach right propositions or situations. What is the main, the core of Hayek's model? Individuals have scarce information. Information is scarce. Private and diverse information, including coercion constraints. That is, we have different views, different ideas, different information. Agents' payoffs are conditional on other people's choices. That is, what I get, my income will depend on what you people do. It's not independent of what you people do. And this is called strategic interdependence, uncertainty. This is a very important feature of all economic processes, strategic interdependence. Each party may deliver less or hamper other activity more than anticipated. All the time this happens. Incomes differ, individual incomes differ from individual contribution, necessarily, because of this, delivering less or more than anticipated, or other people hampering, obstructing more activities than anticipated. So we are always, many people are always insatisfied because we don't reach what we think we can reach. And in this model, coordination is a substantial process and a very important process. And in this model, in this vision, and I think in reality, we don't exchange things, we exchange rights, individual rights. And so legislation is a very important part of this coordination process. Personal decision process is the core of this vision. And this process is all the institutional, legal, political frameworks condition the exchange environment and rights. With this condition, that is ignorance, individual ignorance, strategic interdependence, there's an initial state that everything is diverging and diverse. Individual ideas, views, meanings, measures, understanding are different. Exchange entails agreement over conflict. In order to exchange, we have to agree on what we are changing. So agreement is a very important. You can agree or you cannot agree. There's more conflict, more unsolved conflict, or less unsolved conflict. And all the economic process is a process that order is infused in the process, and conflict are overcome, and agreement is reached.